Hi, this is Catherine Dubberly, the Answer Lady. I'm working on a brand new stitch today. It's called Irish Mesh Stitch, and I found it among hand knitters and thought, gosh, that would be really pretty for the loom. So I've worked out something very, very close to it, and I'm going to show you how to do it. You're going to see me working on a Kiss loom because that's my favorite. I don't want you to think that it has to be made on a Kiss loom, though. If you watch carefully and ignore the pins that we wrap around for doing our continuous U-wrap, you will see that everything essential about this stitch could probably be done on any loom. I'm thinking it will be suitable for dishcloths, which is what I'm making here, but my real goal is to turn this into a blouse pattern, and I like to have a good size swatch when the stitch is open like this, and when I'm using cotton yarn. This is actually a cotton acrylic blend I'm using, and it's the first time I've used it, so I'm not sure how it's going to behave, but it's very nice to work with. Alright, let's see how we do this. Turns out it's pretty easy. I slip the first stitch. That's optional. That's your choice. And then I begin by knitting 4 normal knit stitches. I'm working here on a Kiss loom, which allows me to use a continuous U-wrap knit stitch, but any knit stitch should work. I have not tried this with an E-wrap stitch. I'm not saying it won't work. It perhaps will work, but I haven't done it yet. So some non-twisted version of the knit stitch I know will work. I slipped the first stitch. It's not part of the pattern. And I knitted the second stitch. It's not part of the pattern. But the next 3 stitches are, and I knitted all of them. Then I transferred stitch 2 and 3 of that group to needle 1 of the group. Now I'm going to knit the original stitch on needle 1 over both, lift the top loop, move it to peg 2. That leaves an empty peg 3, which I will wrap. Of course, you can't knit it over this row because there's only 1 wrap on it, but next row we will be able to. Now we knit 3, and we're going to do this, what I'm doing now, all the way across. Knit 3 normal knit stitches, 1, 2, 3, transfer stitch 2 to peg 1, and stitch 3 to peg 1. They may grow a little. If they do, tighten them up with your yarn tail. Knit the lower stitch over the top 2, lift the top 2 of the remaining stitches, move it to peg 2. Now peg 3 is empty, and so we start again. We wrap peg 3, knit 3 normally. The continuous U-wrap is normal for this loom, so that's how I'm doing it. Move 2 to 1 and 3 to 1. Adjust so they didn't grow. Don't permit them to grow. Knit the bottom one over, move the top one back to peg 2, and we are ready to wrap the empty peg. We're going to repeat this all the way across, and we're going to do it every row. The difference between the rows is that you start in different places. We'll look at that in just a minute. I'm going to finish this one more repeat in front of your eyes. Then I'm going to go off camera and finish the row up to the end, and then I'll meet you there. Alright, here was the empty peg that resulted from the last repeat of the stitch pattern. We're going to wrap it. Then we're going to knit the next 3. And this will be my last repeat of the stitch pattern for this row, because I always want to leave either 2 or 3 needles in plain knit stitch at the very edge. I've experimented, and it's going to alternate between 2 and 3 on the right side, but fewer than that. 1 does not look good, does not make a nice edge. I'll show you as soon as I knit this over what I mean. Here it is with alternating 2 and 3. There's a 3, there's a 2. That makes a reasonably substantial edge. This loom has 29 pegs. If it had 30, that would be even better, and I would leave either 3 or 4 stitches just plain knit at the edge. That's what I've got at this edge, and I really prefer it. I wanted to swatch on this loom because I'll be knitting on a loom just like this one but with longer sides. So I need to know how the fabric will behave on this loom. But if my primary goal was a really nice pot holder, well, actually this would be a dishcloth, never a pot holder, it's too open. If the primary goal was that, I would make sure that my repeats worked out so I could have 3 stitches minimum on the edge. Okay, all even numbered rows, slip the first stitch and just knit normal knit stitches all the way back. And on this row, all of the needles that were empty, pegs that were empty, that picked up a loop last row, will now get knitted off and return to being normal knit stitches and can rejoin the pattern wherever they're needed. So as soon as I knit off this row of knit stitches in the usual way, I will be back with you and we will look at row 3 of the pattern. Okay, ready for row 3. The only difference between it is that we began on the 5th stitch from the edge to transfer for row 1, and we're going to begin on the 6th stitch from the edge for this row, for row 3. But we will slip the first stitch and knit 2 to start the row, and these 2 stitches will not be involved in any transferring or what's going on. Then we start our normal pattern again. Knit 3, transfer stitch 2 to peg 1, transfer stitch 3 to peg 1, knit the bottom stitch over the other 2, move the top one of the remaining 2, 1 needle to the right, wrap the now empty needle, and begin again. So the rows are really just the same with the exception of where we start. We alternate being closer to the edge and closer to the main body of the work, and that creates this crisscrossy pattern. So that's the Irish mesh stitch.